continuing on this subject, um, on anti-Asian racism is the topic of gaslighting related to communities of color fighting each other. So talking about violence from white supremacy is one thing, but addressing violence and racism from within other communities of color can be just a totally different minefield. And oftentimes, in order to feel like they're being heard, one community of color might gaslight the other and say, well, you're the reason why our community is suffering, or your people didn't struggle the way that we did. And this happens in all different directions, in all different ways. But without gaslighting our own experiences as Asian Americans and without gaslighting the experiences of other communities of color, how do you think we can collaboratively hold each other accountable? Like, so if my previous question had more to do with how individuals can sort of lend their support, this is more about how do you think communities as a whole can support each other and take this to the next level?
Um, I think before we do any work with anybody, we have to acknowledge ourselves that we also did the wrong things, and people within our communities did the wrong things too. I remember when I was a kid, with watching on the news during the LA riots, the Asian business owners, on top of their store, just pointing their guns at rioters, and it's like, even then, it's like, you are in their community though. Your store is in their community. Like, you need to be out there, with them. You need to be handing out water. You need to be, bandaging up people, because that's your community. Those are your customers, and we need, I think we all need to acknowledge that we were, maybe, we were all fed a narrative about other people that we need to acknowledge is just not true. It was just a way to pit us against each other, by saying, well, those people are over there, they're in a sinking boat. You're over here, your boat's good. But we fail to realize that we're all in the same actual boat. Not to sound cliche, but we actually all are. And we all, have like I think a duty and responsibility to acknowledge that in the past and even in the present, that people do bad things and they say bad things, and against other communities of culture and against other people of culture and or I'm sorry, color. And and I think once we can acknowledge that, and we can, I think, get over ourselves and just say, like, yes, that's something that we did and we own it.
Yeah.
Now how can we move forward? What do you need from us? How can we help you?
Mm-hmm. There's also something to be said, like, the riots were horrible, and obviously, people were trying to defend their turf, so they say, and they reacted however they reacted. We can't go back. That it happened, and again, these things are just things we're going to have to acknowledge. Were they right? Were they wrong? Why did they do it? Is that what we want for the future? And another thing that I have to acknowledge, though, is something we've both felt, which is growing up, especially. I'm Korean American, and Eric is Taiwanese Colombian American. And there were many times that we both felt that even in our own cultures, people made us feel lesser than. You're not as this enough because of the not Korean enough. You're not American enough. You're not, you don't belong because the language is hard for you, or da 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 da. And a lot of it is, I hate to say it, is also just the crab mentality of needing to excel and be the person who's up top calling the shots. And oh, for the love of God, can we all just admit that, like, again, does the responsibility have to fall on one person? And, even in my community, in the food community, and we've talked about this, where I was just like, if you're going to go on and preach that, we got to walk the walk, you can't keep excluding people from that. And be wary, of course, that when you're in a certain position, there are things people are going to want from you. But at the same time, I've had so much of the experience of people who say, oh, we got to help each other. We got to be there for each other, da, 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 da. And then when I actually needed help and I reached out, I was given, oh, I just can't do that. But can you do this? Da, 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 da. And I'm just like, no. I'm like, that's it's just not how things are going to get done. But for that said, there are people who are actively trying to do that. And we are acknowledging that, you know, it shouldn't have to take for anyone to find some degree of success for you to see how they're trying and how they're doing it and how they're best supporting it. They're just out there doing their thing like everybody else. And I try as much as I can to basically do my part and help however I can. But that's also a little, I hate to say it, you have to find a balance. There are people who are really just there to find their way in the door, which you put your foot in. But at the same time, acknowledge and think the bigger picture of, you know, no one's saying you got to save this person, but we are saying that to help our community, please just acknowledge, like, this is what I can do for you. I can't do this, but I can do this. And remember that you were them once, and that, you know, what could you have possibly needed from somebody at that time? And yeah, that's pretty much what I can say. And
keep showing up. I mean,
yes,
you had mentioned before, you know, that, you know, we just have it as our Facebook photo, you know, our Facebook profile picture, you know,
the T-shirts.
Exactly.
No,
right.
It's
right. You know, we you know, we that's all well and good, but, you know, I think we as a community need to consistently and constantly show up for other people, whether that's for BLM or something else. We just, and authentically show up and
ask how you can help
and
actually do it.
Right. Just follow through and just be there in support of of other people. Cause I think, so much trust has been lost in you know, the last however many decades of you know, since at least maybe our parents have come to this country, you know, that I think that needs to get rebuilt. And if it's up to us to rebuild that trust with other communities of color, then I think that's something that we need to do. And we can't just say, like, well, I did my thing and, you know, they didn't accept it, therefore I that's all I can do. It's like, you have to keep trying. You have to earn that trust back.
Yeah, I mean, people are exhausted. We're exhausted, and of course, you do it however much you can. But I will bring up one example of this that actually might help anyone who might be wondering, in a literal sense, how this could help. So while we were traveling, we actually encountered he was wearing his college baseball cap, and somebody else was passing, and they're like, "Hey," you know, that kind of thing. Same. Another American was passing, going, "Hey, like, how's it going?" And we were talking on the sidewalk, and people were walking around us, and, like, you know, because there just wasn't, you know, there was enough space for everyone to pass. There was a man who passed us, a white gentleman, tall, you know, probably went running or something. And he made the remark to us, like, why don't you just get out of the way of the sidewalk? And, you know, we're East Coast people. What can I say? We when people say something, we say something back.
We went full New York on them.
So we kind of just, no, because what we did was, I was like, there's enough room to walk around. And he just walked away. And we all started laughing because we reacted. And we're like, wow, he really, whatever. He's all sorts of extra. The man turned around and kept talking. To be honest, he was in such a distance that we couldn't really hear what he was saying anymore. We were just kind of like, and all four of us looked at him and we're like, are you still talking? Are you still talking? Like, seriously, like, please go, like, go home. And then he wouldn't leave, and we're still laughing because I'm like, what are we supposed to do? Like, cry? No, this is hysterical. Like,
and I sure as heck I'm not going to apologize for using a public sidewalk.
I was like, there are lots of people walking around us. Yeah. Like, chill. Like, please. He continued to blah blah blah. It sounded like Charlie Brown, how the TV. It was just like. I apologize. I just kind of went, please go home and get laid. Oh my God, just go. And I was like, go. Like, please shoot. Like, I just went, I literally just kept going. I was like, shoot, go. And he eventually just left. Now, my point is that strength in numbers, please be united, because if you have, I mean, we all have our opinions, of course, but it's like, if we don't find a way to find that this is something we all agree on, how do we approach this, and just do it, it's just going to get to a point where it's like, really, whose hand is bigger than whose in this fight? It's just like, we're all still in this. This is better for some people, worse for some people. It doesn't matter at this point, because if we don't find a way to just be joined on this and something we all agree on, then we're all going to suffer. So that's, I guess, my point.
Yeah, I mean, and I think showing up really is the key. I mean, depending on how involved you want to be in the community, there's so many different ways that you can get involved. And sometimes people think that the only way to get involved is, I got to be an organizer and I need to be protesting. But like, there's whether you're donating money, whether you are supporting a network by giving them your attention, your time, and your support, there's just so many different things that you can do for other communities.